Hi, this is Living Raw Radio, and my name is Geeta Sidhu-Robb. And it is such a pleasure to be here with somebody that I know in a way really, really well, and in a way not even at all, because it's one of those ways that when you work with somebody, you kind of know them in one part of their space, but not everywhere. Everything that we do in this show, everything that I do when I come on the show is to try and show what it's like to have ordinary people doing extraordinary things. And one of the people that has always struck me by the amazing, extraordinary things that she does is today's guest. Malin, with the unpronounceable surname, is head of philanthropy for MicroLoan Foundation. So I'm involved in MicroLoan Foundation because I'm the chair of their Women's Development Board, because it is a project that I believe in immensely. It works in the part of the world that I care about enormously. And Malin just does the unthinkable and makes it look normal, acceptable, and something that just everybody does. And I think that when you find someone whose life is dedicated to raising money for charitable causes, whose goal is to be driven to help people to get a better life, I think that's really quite amazing. I think it's an amazing skill set. I think it makes an amazing person. And so I wanted Malin to come on today to talk about what it's like to actually just raise money for charities, to be philanthropic as your simple raison d'etre of life. So morning, Malin, welcome.
Well, thank you very much. Good morning.
And totally unpronounceable surname. Because
yes.
You want to just say it so I can prove it?
Shall I? So,
yeah.
Malin Rosenkvist.
There you go. Good to know. So, Malin, your title is Head of Philanthropy, isn't it, for MicroLoan Foundation?
That's right. That's right.
I want to talk about where this came from. How did you end up working for a charity and making it that your life's work is to raise money for people that are more disadvantaged than you? How do you end up in this place?
Right. So, I mean, it's not necessarily a straight path to be the head of philanthropy.
Life never is it?
So I started off with a career in hospitality, and I was also working as an actress and a dancer at the same time. And as I was doing that, you pick up skills that are not necessarily obvious what job they're going to lead you on to. But, as I was working in a bar, one day I met a woman and I said, I'm a little bit bored, something needs to happen. And she said, well, you know what, I live in Uganda. So why don't you come and see me? So I resigned, and a month later, I moved to Uganda.
Really?
Yeah.
As one does?
Yes, absolutely. I thought, why not? So I spent time in rural villages in Uganda, and that's where I kind of got really bitten by the whole idea of, right, there's a lot of stuff that needs to be done. There's a lot of people that
But Malin, let's just stop there for a minute. For the normal people, let alone, you're Swedish. Had you ever been to Africa before that?
No.
Had you ever been to Uganda before that?
No, I mean, that is in Africa, so no, is the answer.
Do you know what I mean? But had you ever, so you didn't know this woman?
No, I didn't. But it's also a little bit a sense of adventure, right? You need to make things happen.
No shit, Sherlock. Yes, it is. I mean, having said which, I did move to Russia like that. So that's, so it's, although Uganda's slightly safer, I think, than Moscow.
Yes, probably.
And so you'd never lived in anywhere rural, because I know these places, right? Because I grew up there, not in Uganda, in Malawi. So, wow, firstly. And did your family mind? Did you tell them?
I mean, yeah, I told them, but what can they say? It's not really.
I'm a mother. I can shout a lot. I would be like, I'm coming with you to see where you're going.
Yeah. I mean, I have done a few kind of adventures similar to that, just not maybe that remote, if you see what I mean. Not to such a faraway place.
So you actually were remote. You didn't go into Kampala or something. You were actually.
No, I was on the outs. I was in rural areas close to Jinja, which is right by the source of the Nile. So I was swimming in the Nile every morning, and then I took together with a local guy, a young guy, he took me over in a boat across the rapids, across the Nile, which are very strong rapids. And every morning he picked up the boat from the bottom of the Nile because there was a big hole in it. So I was like shoveling the water out as he was paddling across.
Hysterical. And this was your modes of transport?
Yes, that was
Your
my
taxi.
commute. That was my commute.
Wow, that must make the tube look all kinds of wrong.
Yeah, absolutely.
So how long ago was this?
So this was in 2007, that I was there for almost a year in Uganda. And then I came back to the UK and did
So what were you doing?
politics.
I'm sorry, I'm refusing to move past Uganda at this stage. What were you doing while you were there?
So I was informing about HIV and AIDS to local communities, which was at the time at a rise because of various political issues. And you know how international development is very much affected by what is going on politically in the world. So there was a sort of a ban against using condoms and instead pushing for abstinence. Which
oh, for heaven's sake. That worked really well, I'm sure.
Yes, absolutely, of course. So the provision of condoms had reduced massively. So there was a need to really make a major push again for just to inform about how HIV and AIDS,
safe sex.
HIV, yeah, exactly, and family planning and all those kind of things.
In English?
Yes, yes. And I was out with doctors, and then we had a local team as well who was with us. So I did that, and I also worked with schools and education projects.
How amazing. Okay, so I'll now let you move on past Uganda. So, okay, so you did that. How fantastic. After a year, what happened? Did you decide it's time to go back?
So I had applied for a politics degree. So I studied politics. This was obviously after I had a career already. So I was then, what was I? 28, maybe?
Right.
So this was like a second wind.
Yeah, completely.
One of many. But, you know, so that, so then I got into the course that I wanted to do. So I went back and studied basically international development and politics with a specific focus on African politics.
For 3 years?
For 3 years, yeah.
Right, and then?
And then I basically wanted to work with something that was relevant to what I studied, and also use my experience. So what I first did was I did a little bit of fundraising just off my own back kind of thing, and I raised maybe 10,000-15,000 pounds. And then I self-funded another trip to Uganda and set up surgery camps for disabled children, because it was just something that was really, really, really badly needed in that particular area outside Jinja. So I did that, but unfortunately...
What kind of surgery did they need?
So anything from, you know, bone rot, cleft palate, you know, stuff.
Little things that make such a big difference, and they are actually doable.
Yes, and they can, it will basically prevent them from becoming, having a handicap for the rest of their lives. And it's relatively simple surgeries. But that was one of the most challenging projects I've ever done, because I was with the doctors in the field, and basically they'd had call outs on the radio to get people to bring in their children who had some kind of challenge where they thought they may need surgery. And we had to pick who gets the surgery.
Oh, no.
Because there's you know, that we only have so much money, and we need to decide who gets a surgery and who doesn't.
Oh God, that's awful. How heartbreaking.
Yeah, definitely really challenging. Also because, you know, you'd have a child that comes in and you know that child really, really badly needs the surgery, and the child is not going to make it through to adult life without some sort of support. But you can't give them the surgery because you can tell that, okay, actually the parent also has a handicap of some sort. So they might have, you know, a mental handicap, or so they're actually not able to care for their child. So the child will be malnourished, and, you know, having the surgery is not going to help them. But what's going to happen is that child is going to have the surgery, and then they're not going to make it through because the parent won't be able to dress the wound.
So you're
properly.
literally playing God, literally.
It's horrible.
Oh, what an awful.
But at the same time, I then went back. I went back 6 months after the sort of surgery camps had taken place, just to see what has happened. And we had like a 96% success rate. I mean,
and how wonderful, how many kids you did help, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And that was, I think it was a total of 120 kids who got medical advice or who got surgery or who got equipment so that they can actually live a better life, you know, a more convenient life, thanks to that sort of £15,000 that I raised. So,
wow. And it was just £15,000 you needed for that?
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
So then you went back and you saw them and you saw that it had made a difference. And then?
Yeah.
How did you raise that 15,000, by the way?
Well, I like parties. So I had big parties at swanky nightclubs and just invited people and said, you know what, it's for a good cause. So if you're going to have fun, let's make sure that other people have a better life.
I love that.
So
that's hysterical.
basically sold tickets and which I'm not entirely sure if it's actually allowed, but asking, you know, having friends who work in the hospitality industry and having worked there myself for such a long time, they were bringing out the bottles and the shots and basically asking people, so you can have a free shot if you give a suggested donation of X. And so, I mean, one of those parties raised like £10,000, and then I did a couple of smaller ones as well. So
amazing. Good for you. Okay, so you've now gone and seen, I can raise money, I can make a difference, I can change all these people's lives twice. And then
I got my first job in fundraising because I thought, okay, so hospitality, when you work in hospitality, it's pretty much like sales. And then you can do sales for good, basically, which is ultimately what fundraising is. You're just selling you're selling a feel-good factor kind of thing. Making people feel good and making people understand and educating people. It's all part of fundraising, you know, in the stewardship and the taking care of your donors, making sure that they are happy and that they are, you know, getting something really, really positive back, as well as learning something new, which is, I mean, I love my job. It's great. I get to meet super inspiring people, both here, you know, our donors, as well as, of course, the women that we're helping.
But you also get to inspire, you also get to be the inspiring person every single day. You get to inspire people every day and get them to bring out their best selves. So that's a lovely. So anyway, timeline, let's go back. So what happened after that? No, I love it. I'm like, it's the making of a head of philanthropy, isn't it? That's the journey.
So then I got a job with a very small charity who had been running a very big sort of fundraising campaign, and they were they needed someone to take over to just keep it going, because they were going in a slow mode fundraising over a period of time because they'd just done a big push. So I took over that appeal and was basically there for a while, and then from then I've worked with various organizations.
What was that appeal for? Was it still Africa or was it somewhere else?
Yes, it was education in Kenya.
Of girls?
Both. So one boys' school and one girls' school, but underprivileged children. And basically, it also gave me an opportunity to spend a bit more time in East Africa and hang out and meet really phenomenal, super bright kids who are just truly inspiring. So yeah.
Yeah, I took my son was complaining once about his sisters getting, because they have different fathers, and my daughter's father bought them these amazing Christmas presents and was taking them somewhere phenomenal. And my son was like, and I think he must have been 10, 11, 12. And I was like, really? You think you're hard done by? So I made him spend Christmas in an orphanage in one of the slums just outside of Nairobi.
Oh, wow.
We had a really good time. It was fantastic.
Yeah. It's such a good, I think it's good for anyone. It doesn't matter what age you are, but I think you just, if you are given that, it's a real gift as a parent, if you can.
Yeah, you really adjust your, I mean, it was a gift for me as much as for him, but it really readjusts your parameters. I think it's very important.
Yeah.
Okay, so you did that for how long?
So I basically was with various organizations over the coming, I don't know how long it's been now. I've been doing this for about 10 years now. So, well, 12 years since 2007. But just working with various organizations, all African focused. Quite a lot of them have poverty alleviation at the core, but also education is a big piece. Obviously, there's a little bit of health in there as well. And then just slowly working to a point of being where I am today with MicroLoan.
So we'll get to MicroLoan in a second, but what is the career of I'm trying to understand, like, I mean, I know what a legal career looks like. I know what, do you know what I mean? I know how that works and what medical career looks like. So within the charity sector, you just take on bigger charities and bigger projects. Is that what career progression looks like?
Not necessarily bigger charities. You just take on a bigger role. So bigger, that may be in the form of a bigger chunk of funding, or a larger audience, or just taking on more responsibility. So, I mean, it can still be a small charity, but it can still be a big job in a small charity. So it basically, you start off on an officer level where you're a fundraising officer and you're dealing with the lower level donors, and you might be trying out to do a lot of different things, because the different income streams in fundraising are very different and they need very different skill sets.
What does that mean?
So, for example,
I interrupted you.
No. So if you're a corporate fundraiser, the skill set that you need is very different. You need really strong people skills. You need quite a lot of entrepreneurial thinking. So you need a specific skill set to appeal to that type of donor, which is a corporate donor. And if you're a trust and foundations fundraiser, you need to be really well organized. You need to be really have a really strong writing skills, really strong financial skills, so you can create a budget really well. It's much more meticulous in a way, and quite often those roles are actually closer to the work in a way. And then if you look at major donor fundraising, that's again a totally different skill set. Or if you're an events fundraiser, obviously you need to have all the skills that any events manager has. So it's quite interesting, because you can almost walk into, like you can in most places of work, I guess, but you can almost walk in and meet a fundraising team, and you can almost tell who does what, because it's quite distinct personalities that choose the different types of fundraising, which is really amazing.
I love that. Yeah, you're almost born to do something.
Yeah. It's or you've honed your skills throughout your life to a point where you're like, I'm so good at this.
Zone of genius.
Yeah. So, which is really nice.
Good. That's good to know, because it's not something that people know much about. So that's one of the things that I wanted to shine a light on, because you've actually actively taken a desire and then used that to create and follow a path, which I think is really, really interesting. Okay. So then you came to MicroLoan, and then tell us a little bit about MicroLoan first.
So MicroLoan is again, quite a small organization. We basically help some of the poorest women in Malawi, Zambia, and Zimbabwe to start their own small income generating activities. And these women that we help, they are, I mean, Malawi really well. So the level of poverty in Malawi is extreme. And the women that we help are, really struggling to survive on £1 or £2 a day to feed their family and send their kids to school and everything. So what we do is basically giving them an opportunity to find their own way out of poverty and giving them a helping hand. We're not giving handouts, they get training and support, business training, mentoring, all that kind of stuff. But they then take a small loan, and that loan is a business loan that helps them start their own business, basically. And then they can begin their journey. And it's really amazing. I mean, hang on. Don't talk about the results yet, because it's just the results are phenomenal. Talk to me about the business training, because the thing about MicroLoan that I love is how they're trained. Yeah, so the training has got, first of all, which is quite unusual for this kind of organization, is that we provide a lot of training. So the women take part, and we only lend to women, by the way, and we only work with women. So it is 8 modules in how to run a business planning, market research, all the kind of bits and pieces you need to know to run a business.
Yeah.
And it also includes like doing a budget and, what's the difference between profit and income. But all of this is done through song, dance, and role play in the local languages. So
see, that's the part that I love. I feel like we should do that in London too for some businesses, frankly. But yeah.
Yeah, but to be honest, I think we're kind of moving in that direction. In a lot of places, the trainings are much more interactive because they're more effective when you do them that way, right?
Yeah, and you remember because it's the idea that stays in your brain.
And also the women that we work with are illiterate, largely illiterate. So, a lot of them sign their papers with a thumbprint. They don't even they're nowhere near functional literacy at all. So it's kind of, we have to do the training in this kind of way. And it's specifically developed for really, really poor women in rural areas in the specific countries where we operate. So
why do you only lend to women?
So the first reason is that we're not interested in making loans for the sake of making loans. We're interested in making loans and provide training and help people set up businesses so that there's poverty is alleviated for these families, and there's this positive social impact. And we know that women are more likely to spend their money on the family and the household and the home than men are.
Yeah.
There's research on this, and I'm not even going to go into the numbers, but it's quite tremendous. So it makes perfect sense for us to reach our objectives to alleviate poverty and help families to lend to women or to work with women. But it's also the fact that across the world, women are more reliable borrowers. So women are more likely to pay back.
True. They're more likely to pay back.
Yeah.
So, okay,
exactly.
So let's talk about the actual money part of this. What is microfinance?
So first of all, I have to
microloans.
say, yeah. So microfinance as a term, because I think a lot of people may have heard the term microfinance, and it's quite broad because it can mean almost, on the one hand, you have, Wonga or a payday lender or someone who's providing small micro loans, but have no interest in the social aspect of it. And on the other hand, you've got an organization like MicroLoan Foundation, where the social impact and the difference that we make is at the very core of what we do. Yeah. That is our reason for being. So I think it's important to understand that the term microfinance is really challenging, and it is so broad that it is almost obsolete. Because there's also a whole host of different products that you can have. Just like with any other financial product, you can have insurance, so you can have loans, so you can have, lots of stuff. But what we do, and the microloans that we provide, it's paired with free financial literacy and business training. And that's really, really essential if our women are going to succeed.
Oh no, anybody, anywhere should be given business training when they get given the loan. It should become a staple necessity of giving anybody a bloody loan, frankly, for a business.
Yeah.
So the size of these loans that make this incredible difference is minute.
Yes, absolutely. So Malawi, which is the poorest country that we operate in, the average loan in Malawi, I think in 2018 was £54. But the actual starter loan, so for people who join us and have their first loan with us, the average startup loan in Malawi is £22 to start a business. So it is.
So you can change someone's life with £22 because they take that £22 and they make a business out of it, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So for example, what's happened?
So I'd say the most basic one is basic trading of agricultural produce. So it might be buying tomatoes from the local farmer and taking it into the nearest town and selling it at a higher price. And that means that these women will then make a profit really quickly. And what's really important, if you're living in sort of hand-to-mouth poverty, you really need to make a profit quickly, because when things go wrong, they go wrong really, really quickly. So
yeah, but and you need to eat now. You don't need to
exactly.
eat another time. That's literally the core of everything we're talking about here.
Yeah, absolutely. So when we talk about how people are starting businesses, it is on a very, very basic level. It's not how we would necessarily think about a business or an entrepreneur, but it is definitely very, very entrepreneurial, and it's they are succeeding.
Well, I remember when we were growing up in Malawi, where we got dropped off, where the school bus type thing, or whoever picked us up from school, they would drop us at the bottom of this very long hill. Now I come to think about it, and you would walk up this hill and then turn right, and at the top, it was a good 15-minute walk, was our home. And at the corner, there was a woman who used to sell this thing called chitumbua. And chitumbua is amazing stuff, which we were never allowed to eat. So of course we totally did. And she had firewood, and a big steel pot. And on top of it, she had a metal grate. And what she would do was she would take bananas from the trees, because, bananas were there. And then she would mush up the bananas, mix it with a bit of flour, and she would fry it in these pots. And you got these puffy kind of banana, kind of cakey, what do you call those things? Just puffy banana goodness. I mean, like, oh my God, this stuff was amazing. And I remember that it would cost us like 2 tambala to buy it, which is the currency of Malawi was kwacha and tambala. I mean, like 2 tambala, that's like a micro amount of a penny. And you would buy the stuff, and it would be hot, and you would have to eat it by the time you got to the top of the hill, because you were not allowed to buy from the street, and you were not allowed to buy. But that's what that woman did. That was her business, because those bananas cost her nothing, and what she was doing was making a profit out of every one of the chisambuas. I'd forgotten that, but thank you for reminding me. But we supported that lady totally. So that's kind of your business, isn't it? Because that's what she was doing. She made an instant profit. She went home with the money she made. She bought food. She fed her kids. She bought more materials, and she started again the next day.
Yeah, absolutely, and that kind of immediate profit. So I mean, the loan cycle for our standard loans are about 4 months.
Mm-hmm. And 4 months, that's very short.
Yeah, because that's what it needs to be. It needs to be a quick win, basically. But then some of the women obviously work with us for a long time. And I mean, most people, we've got women who's been with us since we started in 2002 in Malawi. They just they don't necessarily need the loan still, but they still want to be part of the group, because we work with groups and making sure that, the women have a support network around them. So a lot of the women stay with us for a very, very long time. And then they kind of develop as entrepreneurs as well, and become serial entrepreneurs, and buy buildings, and have, boats and
homes and things. Yeah.
Do lots of different stuff. So
talk to me about some of your statistics, because microloan statistics are phenomenal.
Yeah, I have to say that I'm happily going to brag about this, but
please brag, please. Let me give you a platform to brag away.
So 99% of all the loans we make are repaid in full.
Incredible.
Yes.
A 1% default rate in the poorest countries in the world is unbloody believable. I bet Lloyds Bank would be delighted if that happened to them.
I bet they would. But also the fact that this is thanks to the training and thanks to the group dynamics.
Yes.
In total,
because women are so collaborative and we support each other. So if you put them in a group, it is more supportive.
Absolutely. And that's very much at the core of our model, is that there needs to be a support network within the group, because otherwise it gets really, really tricky to be on your own to do this. We've supported 200,000 women since we started, and we are growing, which is exciting. So last year alone, we supported 62,000 women.
Wow.
Yeah. So
in 1 year compared to 200,000 since inception.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's really exciting. We know that obviously, if you live in poverty, the whole thing about resilience is one of the greatest challenges, because when disaster strikes or someone in the family falls ill or there's a natural disaster or, you know, political unrest, whatever it may be, these families are really at a very high risk. So the fact that 97% of our women are able to make savings compared to just 11% before they join microloan is phenomenal. And that is one of the, it actually is a major, it's not necessarily the most exciting stat, but it is actually one of the most important stats.
Well, yeah, because, well, no, but let's break that down for a minute, because when you're poor, the thing about being poor, and frankly, if you look at this, even recently, I was listening to statistics from America, and they said the average American has less than 1 month of savings.
Yeah.
Less than 1 month of savings. And you're talking here about women that are living below the poverty line. In fact, they create the bloody poverty line. They have no education. They have no resources. They have no fallback. They are dependent on living on the land and off the land, because every time there's a natural disaster, there's a flood, their home gets taken away. If somebody does something stupid politically, they get hurt. Because women and children are the weakest link in every society. We are always the end of anything that goes wrong, hurts us the most.
And I also think this whole thing about when you have inequality in a society, what poverty does is just magnify those inequalities. So
but poverty magnifies everything.
Yeah. So if you look at a very patriarchal society, well, all three countries, so Malawi, Zambia, and Zimbabwe, all three countries are very patriarchal societies. So the gender inequality is significant in these countries. And they are definitely magnified when the lower down the poverty line you go. So yeah, the savings element is extremely important.
And how do the women manage with the men? Because I know that some of the women you've had, when they buy their houses, some of them are married, right? So how does it work with the men?
Yeah, there's a whole education piece around this that we kind of need to support the women with. And that is, first of all, when we go into a village, we have a meeting with the local leaders, so the tribal leaders. And that tribal leader calls a meeting with men and women and children, usually farm animals are also in the meeting. You know, it's a village meeting.
Clearly, well, your chickens are always there.
Exactly, and a random goat or two. And, and there's then a conversation about what microloan does, how they can engage with microloan, what the benefits are, you know, the fact that we are providing loans and training and support, and it's for women, and why we are supporting women. But the whole selling point from our point of view here is to make it really clear that this is to benefit the entire family. And that's really important. It works. We often, obviously, there are challenges because of the imbalances in society. So there are challenges when you have a women's empowerment organization that working in the most poor areas. But it is surprisingly few issues compared to what you would think that it is, because there is our rhetoric around it is to make sure that it's for the benefit of men, women, and children, and for the entire community.
And it gets the goat another day or two of life, because he doesn't become goat curry quite that quickly.
Exactly. But I actually did a couple of years ago, I was in Malawi and did a whole bunch of interviews with couples. Obviously, that's going to be a skewed study because it's only going to be the men who are supportive, who want to talk to me. But it was really interesting to see how proud the husbands were of their women and their wives, and how 60% of the men, our data shows that 60% of the men get involved with running the business. Yeah. It's just the fact that the woman holds the purse strings.
Yeah. But in Malawi, this is something that has been, even from when I was very young, we were the first country that had women's ownership of houses, and the first country that had women in local government as well. So it had that in there. So that's good. I'm so pleased to hear it. Okay, Malin, how do we get people to contribute and to give donations to MicroLoan? Because I think if you can give £25 and totally change a woman's life and her children's lives, so that she can set up a business and feed herself and her kids in school and clothe and house them, then maybe there are many, many people that would like to give us some money. And, you know, the way also with MicroLoan, you can even do £10 a month really for the rest of the year for all we care. We're really happy to take any amount. How do people donate?
So the easiest way to donate is to go to our website, which is microloanfoundation.org.uk. And then there is a donate button, which you press, and you can choose whichever amount you want to donate, and you can choose whether you want to do a one-off donation or a monthly donation or an annual donation. So
I mean, just if you one cup of coffee a month, or one lunch a month will transform someone's life. The lovely thing is that the numbers are so small that anyone can donate, and it's the most wonderful present for a child, for anyone to do this. I'm a huge fan. I think you're amazing. I think the organization's amazing, and I'm really proud to be part of it. So microloanfoundation.org.uk.
That's right. Yeah.
.uk at the end. See, that feels weird.
.org.uk. That is it.
I know. Amazing. Well, so thank you so much, Malin, for the time and the explanation of how a head of philanthropy is born and made, obviously with a massive sense of adventure and the odd bar and good party thrown in.
It's been such a pleasure to talk to you, as always.
So this is Living Raw Radio. My name is Geeta Sidhu-Robb. And again, another episode of taking, I would say ordinary people, but I never think that when I'm around Malin, but taking an ordinary person who does every single day the most extraordinary things. To me, that is what makes life worth living. It makes people worth knowing. It just makes the whole process amazing. I hope you find it interesting. I hope you find it as interesting as I did, because you can talk to people a lot and never really know what brought them to where they are today. If you are at all interested, please go and have a look at MicroLoan Foundation's page and see if you want to donate. And if you don't, just spread the word. That in itself is a wonderful thing for us. And I look forward to being with you again soon. And I hope you've had the best time with us, because we certainly have had.